Mr. Gary Alexander, thank you. Well, thank you, Acting President Sean. You're running a very good meeting in our President's absence. Fellow Rotarians, you will recall that last Monday we had the opportunity to hear from Thurston County's top public lawyer, Prosecuting Attorney John Thunheim. Following that same theme, it's my great pleasure today to introduce the state's top public lawyer, Washington Attorney General Rob McKenna, who, like John, is a fellow Rotarian. He's a member of the Bellevue Club. Mr. McKenna has been Attorney General since he was sworn in as Washington's 17th Attorney General in January 1995, following his election 2000, right? Is that right? That's right. Time goes by so fast. Following his election victory in the previous November, I had the honor of administering the oath of office to him at that time. And he was re-elected to the AG position in 2008. Rob McKenna is a native Washingtonian, having attended Sammamish High School in Bellevue. He went on to the University of Washington, where he received BA degrees in economics and international studies, both with honors. Before graduating from the university, Phi Beta Kappa, I might add, he served as a student body president. As a footnote on that, one of Rob's 4 daughters, Madeline, followed in his footsteps, serving as a student body president of the University of Washington this past year. Following graduation from the University of Washington, Mr. McKenna went on to law school at the prestigious University of Chicago Law School, where he was a member of Law Review. He then returned home and joined Washington's largest law firm, Perkins Coie, where he practiced business and regulatory law from 1988 to 1996. He left the firm because of his election to the King County Council, where he was twice elected without opposition and was twice voted outstanding by the Municipal League in Seattle. He served on the King County Council until his election as Attorney General. In addition to holding 2 important public offices, Mr. McKenna has been very active in the community in a multitude of ways, including serving on the board of the Chief Seattle Council of the Boy Scouts of America. He is an Eagle Scout, by the way. He is also on the Army Advisory Board of Washington State and the Bellevue Community College Foundation, where he served as a board president. If I listed all of Mr. McKenna's accomplishments, activities, and honors, there'd be no time for the presentation. So let me just close by mentioning 2 that come to the top for me. First, he is currently the president-elect of the National Association of Attorneys General, and he won an award from that organization in 2011 for his leadership. The other thing I want to mention is that our Attorney General has appeared before the court on which I serve, the Supreme Court of Washington. He's been before us on occasion, and I can tell you he is an excellent appellate advocate. More significant, though, than his appearances before the Washington Supreme Court are his appearances on behalf of the state of Washington at the United States Supreme Court. He's argued there 3 times and prevailed each time for our state. In one case, which is memorable to me, he actually got the Washington Supreme Court reversed. And I have to tell you, at a moment of frankness here, that even though I'm extremely loyal to my court, I was glad he got us reversed, because I had joined the dissent when the case was before us at the Supreme Court, and it allowed me to say what appeal judges in a multi-judge court love to say to their colleagues after that happens: "I told you so." So anyway, fellow Rotarians and guests, please join me in giving a big welcome to our state's Attorney General, Rob McKenna.
That was fun. That was a 9-0 U.S. Supreme Court decision vindicating Justice Alexander and his 2 fellow dissenters in that case. Past President Sean, thank you. And Justice Alexander, thank you for not only for introducing me, but for inviting me here today as well. It's been several years since I've had the privilege of speaking to all of you, and not only is it always a privilege to speak to a Rotary Club, but I always need the makeup credit as well. So I'm doubly delighted to be before you today. I said to Gary before the meeting started that, and I think I was talking to Larry also at the time, I said, we join Rotary, at least when you're a young lawyer, you join Rotary for the connections and networking, the professional advancement, which is certainly what I did in 1993 as a young attorney at Perkins Coie. But you stay in Rotary and you keep going back for the friendships and for the service. And I really can't think of any other membership organization that provides you with a greater opportunity to have an impact on the community, on the state, and really on the world than Rotary does. It is an amazing, amazing organization. I'm really proud to have been a member for going on 18 years. In fact, this month it will be the 18th anniversary of my receiving my red badge at the Bellevue Rotary Club. And so that is why it's such a pleasure to be back. That and the fact that when you travel the state as I do and you represent the entire state, you know that if you go into the Rotary Club in any community, pretty much everyone you need to see is in the room. The chief of police, the fire chief, the superintendent of public schools, the leaders of the local businesses, the mayor, the local judges. It's highly efficient for those of us who are getting around trying to spread the word about what we're doing. Now, what I thought I would do with my remarks today is focus on one of the things that I do as Attorney General. And I often say that I have three hats that I wear, or three buckets I pour my time into. So I want to focus on one of those. I'll tell you that the three things I do every day as Attorney General really are, number one, to practice law and get to work in some very interesting cases and have some great experiences really practicing at the cutting edge. Number two, I get to be a state leader on important issues of public policy where it's appropriate for the Attorney General to weigh in, particularly consumer protection, public safety, and government quality and accountability. And I have to say, after watching the events of Washington, D.C. This past week and having been a regular visitor to Washington, D.C. as a local elected official, now as Attorney General, that it makes me happier than ever to be a part of this state government. Where people are still here from both parties who are interested in getting things done. And in fact, when you look at what we've been able to accomplish out of my office, the legislature has adopted 44 bills that my office has authored and had introduced, always with bipartisan support, always in the areas where we're the experts: consumer protection, public safety, government accountability, which I think illustrates that we have a lot of terrific legislators who put aside simple partisanship and focus on getting the job done and making things better in our state. Because I have to tell you, and Janelle Guthrie, my Deputy Chief of Staff, could tell you this firsthand, that every year when we introduce our legislative agenda, someone says, "Oh, it'll never go. They won't pass any of your bills. You're a Republican, the majority is in Democratic hands, the governor's Democrat. All your bills are dead on arrival." And every year the legislature passes bills that we've had introduced. And again, I think that's a tribute to the individual legislators and their leaders who want to accomplish what is good for this state and look beyond mere partisan labels to good public policy. So the second thing I do, in addition to being a lawyer, is I'm a policy leader in the state. And the third area is what I'm going to talk about today, and that's my role as the leader of a significantly sized agency. We're not one of the biggest agencies. That would be DSHS, Department of Corrections, DOT. We're also not a small agency. We have over 1,000 staff in 15 offices in 12 cities across the state. So we're a pretty good-sized agency. And I have both found a lot of pleasure in being a leader and manager of that agency, and also an important responsibility in that role. And I want to talk to you about what we've been doing in our office, which is an illustration of how, when your back is against the wall budgetarily, when you come in with a particular management philosophy and that meets that budget crisis, you have real opportunities. And I want to frame that a little bit historically, because if you think about the history of government generally in our country and of state government in particular, there have been some distinct phases. Justice Alexander was reminding me that his dad was the director of personnel for Governor Arthur B. Langley, and he was the last director of personnel prior to the implementation of civil service reform. Now, why was that important? It was important because up to that point in our state's territorial and state history, so for about 100 years, our state government operated the way most governments did. That is, on the tried and true patronage method. The spoils system, I think you call it, Gary. The governor got elected, and you you kept your job or not based on your party affiliation, and that's just the way it was. It was sort of live by the sword, die by the sword, I think you put it. I think that's right. If you got in by patronage, you might get out by patronage as well when someone else got elected. Although Gary did point out to me that many people would hedge their bets by keeping bumper stickers handy they could slap on the back of the car as soon as the election results were announced. But we moved out of that system to the civil service system. The idea was that we moved to a system in which we would keep the best talent and we would keep them there regardless of politics, in fact, rising above politics. We wanted a professional workforce delivering government services, an idea that was entirely sensible and is exactly what you would want. You don't want everyone to get fired simply because a new governor's come in, especially since we now have over 100,000 state employees. That would be chaotic, to say the least.